Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
And we are back with Khandaan podcast. Haroon Rashid is joining us. Haroon, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm good. Thanks for having me back on the podcast.
So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, because you have launched your podcast, right? So tell us about that, because we have, we have you on, we have other writers on, we have Pitu Sultan on, you have Priyanka Chopra on. This is a whole new ball game, man. It's really you came into the game and just like flipped over the table.
No,
what's up?
It's not like that at all. You know, the thing is, so obviously my podcast is with the BBC. It's kind of produced by BBC Asian Network, but it's also produced by BBC Sounds, which is the BBC's like audio podcast platform. But I know that because of the fact that it's on the BBC, yeah, cool, we'll have access to people like Priyanka Chopra and we'll have access to celebrities when they're promoting stuff. But actually, this podcast is more than that. So it's called Beyond Bollywood, and it's kind of a deep dive into the world of Bollywood and Desi entertainment. And that's a really, really big umbrella. And by no means do I claim that we're going to be able to be representative of everything under that umbrella. But it gives us the scope and flexibility that on occasions where we want to talk about something beyond Bollywood, we can as well. Having said all of that, we went for Priyanka Chopra Jonas, the most Bollywood celebrity we could find for the first episode, but it was really good. So and also, not all the episodes, like I said, are celebrity interviews. A lot of them are discussions with people who consume this content and have an opinion on it. And quite often, there's not a platform for them to just express their opinions openly without feeling like they need to censor themselves in case the celebrity hears. But actually, what we've done is, so episode 1 was an interview with Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Episode 2 was a discussion with 2 podcasters. Their names are Mehek and Afsara, kind of ripping apart that interview and also dissecting her book as well. So there are a lot of people who have a problem with Priyanka. There's a lot of people who don't necessarily like her the same way they liked her 10, 15 years ago. And we have like an actual conversation about why and whether those arguments are valid and whether, there are actually problematic things about her or whether she's misunderstood completely. So that's the kind of idea that the podcast will delve into themes that you don't necessarily have a platform to discuss elsewhere. And when I say wider entertainment, I'll be coming to you guys for advice for wider entertainment, because like I said, I claim to be no expert on any of that. But we will talk about Pakistani dramas, we will talk about regional cinema at some point as well, all those kinds of things.
I have to say that I really admire you starting off with like Priyanka Chopra and like taking on Bollywood stan culture, because when the book came out, and I run a book channel and I've had like a few people review her books. And it tends to be like, BookTube, BookTube is basically, it's a bunch of book nerds, right? Like we're just talking about like, oh my God, I love this book. It has fairies in it. And then all of a sudden the Priyanka bots started showing up, the super fans and everyone. And it was really wild there for a while. I mean, people were super angry at anything even remotely critical of that book or by extension of Priyanka Chopra. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like on Twitter, for example. Like in Twitter's already like, you can't sneeze without 10 people jumping on you for it. So yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you. I mean, I think the thing is that nobody is criticizing for the sake of criticizing her. I think if there's things that people have found offensive or problematic or concerning, Priyanka Chopra is not above criticism, is she, right? Like, so we should be able to have an open conversation about what people think and how people feel. And if their feelings are valid, then to what extent she should be held accountable for those concerns. So it is, I mean, I certainly feel like it's a refreshing conversation that I've not heard anybody have anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, like, Haroon, I mean, you and me are friends, and this is not about, makhan lagana and all that, but I really admire that you do ask the tough questions, and I mean, I know I've been a victim of this, that, when you interview a star, that you become more favorable to them because they are nice to you, they're being, they're giving you hugs, they're being complimentary, or you're speaking with somebody that you watched on screen and you wouldn't be as harsh as you would. And I do think probably you also have that a little bit where you tone yourself down, but I do feel that you still are asking her tough questions, and she's a few times pushing back. Like when you were talking about when she's silent or on certain issues, right?
Yeah.
It gets a bit tense and you can feel it. And I really appreciate that, because a lot of times I see, especially in the UK media, because it's such a game where nobody has access, right? And we have to beg for access when we're compared to Indian outlets, or even Variety or these kind of bigger outlets. We really have to beg, and we get we're basically bottom feeders. And I was reading a few reviews online about the movie that dropped, The Girl in the Train. And I could sense that people that are very harsh behind the screens when we're at these press events and media screens are giving a pass to this movie because it will give them access to Parineeti Chopra later on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I feel if you're selling your morals for access to Parineeti Chopra, like, what are your morals even worth, right? So that you are still even to push back to somebody against like Priyanka Chopra, I think that's really admirable, man. And I think you're somebody that has access but is at least using it in the correct way. So I just wanted to say this on Khandaan, that I really appreciate that of you.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I think that the problem is, for a few things. Firstly, if you are a journalist and you are interviewing someone, you can't just be there to do their PR for them, right? Like, I can't just be there for her to read off from the top of her head a pre-rehearsed monologue about why everybody should go buy her book. I'm not there to do that. And also, if you're going to say something to me that instigates a challenge, then you should expect a challenge from me. I'm not going to... because I think the bit that you're talking about, Asim, and it's quite interesting you mentioned that, because a lot of people have highlighted that on social media, is I ask her a really basic question about, do you think your South Asian fans are more protective over you than your Western fans are? And she kind of goes into a whole thing about negativity and how she thinks her South Asian followers are more critical of her and they're more cynical of her, and how they make her feel demotivated. I don't think discouraged, I think is what she says. And I think she wanted me to stop there. And I kind of feel like, well, hold up a second. If you're going down that route and you're going to start talking about the fact that people are cynical of you, then it's only right for me to address the fact that people are cynical of you because they think you've turned your back on them. So, if you, that's how people feel. They feel like you don't care about your South Asian fans anymore and you are only chasing after this Hollywood dream. And so, it was only fair to kind of to go there, and I think that's where I think she got a little bit uncomfortable. But even still, if anybody who hasn't watched it or seen it, go check out the podcast episode for sure.
Yeah. And who else are you kind of interviewing? Can you kind of
let
us know?
I can. I unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave this recording in a few minutes to go and interview Pooja Bhatt for Bombay Begums, which is her new Netflix series. And she is going to be on episode 3 of the podcast, hopefully, unless anything goes crazily wrong. We do have your friend Parineeti Chopra, who you just mentioned, on an episode in a couple of weeks' time as well. But actually, look, this is really strange. For the first time, I'm kind of hoping there's a week where there's no celebrities, so I can talk to people who just love entertainment rather than talk to the stars themselves, because sometimes aren't we overexposed to the stars as well?
I think also, like, I don't know how you do this, but I mean, I've done like maybe not even 2% of the interviews you've done with personalities and like media people, and after a while you can really see the moves that they're doing, like you can see the media training kind of come in.
Yeah.
And like, even if I'm listening to, it's very hard to get any genuine answer, any general thoughts on them, especially now, even with like these lockdown things. And then you have to do stupid things like make them eat weird food, or, you know, have them cook something. Or I saw Parineeti do yoga in like really wide pants somewhere. And I was like, this is what, like, it's become like this Jimmy Fallon, American James Corden kind of thing. And for me, I'm not interested. I would like to have some deep conversations, but the allure of the star has gone because of this bullshit, like, you know, making them eat hot wings all the time, you know, which I think Priyanka Chopra has done at least 70 times. She wouldn't be caught dead doing that for, you know, desi audiences, you know. So
it's interesting that you feel that way about like the celebrity allure fading because they're being like too accessible, or like they're not doing, you know, deep dive interviews, because the way that I see it, the celebrity allure has sort of dissipated because we have so much in-depth information about our stars, which we didn't before. I mean, there's a lot of speculation about like the older generation of stars, but what do you really know about Waheeda Rehman, for example? And, you know, like everyone's like, oh, wow. But you look at something like the later generation of stars. I mean, you sit down with Shah Rukh and you literally know everything about Shah Rukh. So it's a weird sort of conundrum as to why we don't really connect to celebrities the way that we used to before.
So, Haroon, how do you go about it? Like, because you mentioned that also in the Priyanka episode, right? Like, do you have like a team? Is it just like doing even more research, or is it just like that comes to you off the cuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think loads and loads and loads of research. I think for sure. I think certainly with that Priyanka one, I think she's the ideal example of somebody who has just been so exposed over the last 5 or 6 years that I remember a time around the early 2010s, so around like even 8-9 years ago, where I genuinely felt like she was an interviewer's delight, because you always felt like you were going to get something punchy out of her. You thought you were going to get something fresh and unique out of her. But then for the last 2 or 3 years, I feel like it is literally a rehearsed PR speech. So it is just about trying to go down avenues and angles in your interview that you haven't heard her discuss before, or bouncing off something she said in a previous interview to try and expand on that a little bit more. But I think Amrita's right as well about the fact that you don't really I think it's about finding that balance between knowing about their life and them not talking about it too often. Like, also, what's the point of doing an interview with somebody that you're going to get no numbers or no interest in because there's so many other interviews with them already out? I think it's a really hard balance.
Yeah. But yeah, people should check it out. Beyond Bollywood, I think it's streaming everywhere. So I listened to the first episode and I really like it, and I'm looking forward to that. Man, please, you ask Kajol so much about Ishq. Please ask Pooja Bhatt about Chahat. You know,
I love Chahat.
Please do that
for sure.
Let's get into it a bit. The things that came out. I know, Haroon, you'll probably need to leave, just so whenever it is, just let us know. But let's get started. I will really want to hear your thoughts though on the few of the trailers that dropped.
कहते हैं कमाटीपुरा में कभी अमावस की रात नहीं होती, क्योंकि वहां गंगू रहती है.
गंगू चांद थी और चांद ही रहेगी.
The first one I wanted to quickly talk about is dude, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this movie ever. So what is it? Gangubai Kathiawadi? Is that what's it called?
Gangubai Kathiawadi.
Yeah, okay. I'll use your voice and just intersect it every time I do it, because I'm not going to be able to. Yeah. Haroon, man, what did you think of the trailer or teaser, whatever it is that dropped?
I liked it. My initial thoughts were Bollywood is back, because, guys, we've had such a dismal year for Bollywood, and You know, obviously the pandemic was a huge pause in the industry, and everybody kind of reassessed their release strategy and their shooting strategy, and all of that is well and good. But I saw a glimmer of hope at the start of the pandemic that actually a lot of these big movies would go to streaming services, just like they were with Hollywood films. So like we know Wonder Woman or The Witches or whatever it was, a lot of them did go to streaming services over the last year. But with Bollywood, they kind of just churned out all the trash on Netflix and Amazon Prime and Z5 and Hotstar and whatever it was. And it looks like they've held back on the good stuff for the big screen, which I don't necessarily agree with that theory, but it was nice just when this teaser released that I felt like that big energy, that big scale, that lavish kind of mounting that we associate with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, but also that we associate with Bollywood, was back in force. And so I enjoyed the colours and the textures and the vibrance of this teaser. Look, I am an Alia Bhatt fan. I think she's a very, very good actress. I love her in Urta Punjab. I love her in Razi. I love her in Gully Boy even. And I am happy to see what she does with this. And I think she looks pretty good in it. But a lot of people think I'm totally off the mark with that and think she's completely miscast. What do you guys think?
I think that's kind of been the major fight I've seen online, at least on Twitter, that people feel that or she is amazing, she's like the second coming of Jesus in a Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie, or she's like the worst casting ever. I kind of liked it, weirdly enough. But I want to hear Amrita, because I think you're probably on the other side of the fence here.
Well, I think that she's probably a little too young for it, but also I am also a huge fan of Alia. Like, I enjoy her in movies, I enjoy her performances, and I think she's probably one of the best actresses of her generation, and I am really interested to see what she'll do with this film. And also, can I just say, going back to what Haroon just said, it is such a joy to watch something like capital B Bollywood again. Just the teaser, the big giant car, and then the street scenes, and then, watching Alia. And Alia's very deliberately dressed in, in white the whole time. And then she's also playing this sex worker. Like, the symbolism was so on point. The palette was very classic Bhansali. Somebody called it on Twitter, they called it Parisian Kamatipura. And I was okay. I can see that Twitter's going to have a field day with this, but then Twitter always has a field day with everything. So I don't let that bother me as much. I do think, though, the dialogue bazi in the film, the bits that Alia has to do, where she's like, tu wahin pe achhi lagti hai, and then she's giving that speech at the end where she's like, kuwari aapne choda nahi, and then something. It just really, there is a tinge of a child having memorized a fun poem for the school declamation competition about it. Which I'm hoping I'm mistaken, and that in context she'll be able to kill it. Because I want good things, I'm not rooting for anyone to fail at this point.
Yeah.
Correction. I am rooting for certain people to fail, but Alia is not one of them.
Sujoy, what did you think?
I think she is. When you shared the trailer to me on Twitter, right, I instantly saw, and I felt off. I don't know if it's the casting choice or this is, as you said, Parisian Kamatipura. It just feels too sterilized. It's too clean for my liking. And for the world that it is set in, it's a crime film set in whatever. What period is this? Is this like the 80s or the 70s era of Mumbai? But it just feels too clean. And this was earlier called Hira Mandi and was set with Priyanka Chopra, and I am not able to get that image out of my head. And I would think Priyanka Chopra would have actually been a better choice. But obviously, those are all hypotheticals at this moment.
You know what, Sujoy? I think that report is a little bit conflicted. So basically, Sanjay Leela Bhansali was making two things. He is still making a series called Hiramandi, which is now going to be a Netflix original series, and Priyanka is still in talks about that series. But basically, there was a number of things that Sanjay Leela Bhansali was working on at the same time, and one of those being Hiramandi, one of those being Gangubai Kathiawadi, and I think Priyanka might have been approached for this, but that Hiramandi thing is still happening. He's a little bit too intrigued, I think, by the sex trade and by the sex industry in these areas and the red light district specifically. But both those two things aren't the same.
Okay. But I also got flashbacks of Supriya Pathak as Dhankorba in Goliyo Ki Ras Leela Ram Leela. Yeah. It being also a Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie. I'm just thinking like, I don't know if Alia can step up to that, but we will see in the context of the movie. It's too early to speculate, but I'm rooting for her because she's been through hell and, since the SSR thing and all of those, nepotism debate, she's been on the receiving end of it and being Dharma's, torchbearer in some ways. So I'm rooting that this really works out for her, especially after the failure of Kalank and all of that. I'm looking forward to Gangubai.
I was dissing Sanjay Leela Bhansali on the last episode a lot, and I think watching this teaser reminds you why Kalank is not Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Just like the difference is massive seeing both of these because both have Alia together and they tried it so much, but you need Sanjay Leela Bhansali to do what Sanjay Leela Bhansali does. And the thing is, a teaser is the best way to get excited about a Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie because it shows just random shots and images and things like that. And that actually works really well for Sanjay Leela Bhansali. It's when the story gets there that the issues will start.
His teasers are better than his trailers.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a meme to be made here with a shot of Gangubai and then a shot of Kalank, and the tweet would say what you ordered and what you get from AliExpress or Wish.
So Joy,
guys, I'm so sorry I'm going to have to interrupt, but unfortunately my time has come to an end on today's episode. I have, for some reason, compared to all other Bollywood interviews, my one that I'm supposed to be doing now is running early rather than running late. So I'm going to have to say goodbye.
This was short and sweet, Haroon, but so much thanks for joining us, and we'll be listening to your show. Where can people find it just before you leave for this episode?
Sure, just search for Beyond Bollywood on BBC Sounds, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Wherever your podcast platform of choice is, you can find Beyond Bollywood there.
Perfect.
Thanks guys.
So much, Haroon.
Thanks, Haroon.
Thank you. So Haroon will be joining us on the next podcast, right? That's how we're doing it.
Yes.
This will probably go first, and then it's not, we didn't cheat you with like just a little bit of Haroon. You'll have a lot of Haroon later on, but we just need to shift things a bit back and forth because other people have jobs.
Ek hum hi vele hain.
Yeah.
But Sujoy, why are you giving your best ideas away? Post it on Twitter, fool.
Yeah. I'll do that. Well, I'll have done it by the time this episode comes out, right?
Yes,
Time works in different ways.
But I want to get back to this idea of who else would you cast, right? And I think this movie is supposed to be from a very young age of Gangubai till much later, right? And I don't think then Vidya Balan, which was the name everybody was mentioning, Vidya Balan or Priyanka Chopra. Yeah. I don't think those would work in that context, in that age era, right?
But also the kind of Gangubai that is being portrayed, she's already running for political campaigns and being the boss of the brothel. That's a later stage of her life rather than the younger bit. So I'm not sure Alia fits that either. So I don't know. I'm not sure about the casting choice.
But I also think, these kind of situations, the women are much, much younger than they, this shit happens to them at a very young age.
For sure, yeah.
And then they age because their life is so tough, right? So in a way, it could work. And I think also the other thing is, thank God they didn't give this to Disha Patni or Shraddha Kapoor, right?
Yeah.
Like those could
or
be...
Ananya Pandey.
Yeah. So, I mean, Alia is still like heads and tails above a lot of these other actresses. I understand people say, Vidya Balan or Priyanka Chopra, but
this
honestly, there's not that.
This could have been like a career-making role for a younger actress, though. Like, like somebody who hasn't really become a star. But also, like, that is the other side of the story, right? Like, you are making a movie about a woman. And it's going to be, like, it doesn't sound like Sanjay Leela Bhansali has gone mad suddenly and he's making one of those 90s style women's empowerment movies, like the kind that Manisha and Raveena and Madhuri and everybody was making. But he's making like a masala film, but like, like, apne hisab se. And for that to work commercially, you need somebody who's commercially viable. And right now, for the Bollywood market, there are exactly 2 women who can sell a movie, and that is Alia and then Deepika. So I feel like he went with Alia because, like, I don't know, like, Deepika probably, he's got a bit of a Deepika fatigue having worked with her for like 3 movies.
We have got a bit of Deepika and Bhansali fatigue.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think, I mean, maybe there are no other choices, and I think this was probably a good choice. And I honestly also feel like the way the shots are made, Alia's small size really works well cinematically. Like you're mentioning the car looks huge because Alia is tiny, like the shot just works that way.
Yeah.
So, and regarding the dialogue, I think it's like these teasers have these punchy dialogues that have like, she's using like a dialect affectation, which can be jarring. But I think when the movie is playing, we'll probably settle down into it a bit more easy. And I think Amrita, that's what you were also mentioning, right? So, I mean, I'm excited at the moment. I think this is looking good. So, let's move on to the next one. We had a trailer drop for Roohi.
चुड़ैल है चुड़ैल और वहां भी मुड़िया पैरी
शादी वाले घर पे नजर रहती है उसकी इधर दूल्हे की आंख लगी उधर दुल्हन को जगह ले जाएगी वो
Sujoy, what did you think of the Roohi trailer?
Not as excited, to be honest. I'm okay, like, it's a horror comedy and Bollywood makes them like dime a dozen, I'm hoping that it's better than what the trailer is selling it to me, and I'm hoping it's coming from the people who made 3, and so I'm looking forward to that, I suppose. I'm happy that Jhanvi is involved in something really mainstream now. She's done Gunjan Saxena last, I think, and but that was a straight to Netflix release. I'm happy that this is going to be her, back to the cinema kind of movie. I hope this works. Not really excited though, because I'm kind of tired of Rajkumar Rao's comedy routine, and his speech impediment makes it so difficult for me to understand the jokes, and that's what my concern is from this movie.
Amrita?
I had actually forgotten that this movie is coming, and it was actually a pleasant surprise because Jhanvi has just improved so much since Dhadkan, like what is it? Dhadak. And like I
get flashbacks of Pitu Sultan.
But like she's been posting all these TikToks and reels and whatnot about her like practicing various things and mostly like dance routines and stuff. But I guess the girl's just been putting in like tons of work, and it kind of shows in her work in like the trailer and the teaser. The only thing is that Rajkumar Rao, like whenever he does like a mainstream movie or like a commercial role, he does this cheaper face that I don't understand. Like he just goes from like I don't know if he's ever played like a mainstream role where he doesn't automatically lean into like the leechad kind of character. And I don't know why he does that. Like, does he not want to be a leading man? Because this is not the way to go about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy that things like I think I can officially say I'm a Jhanvi stan fan. Like, I really want the best for her. Like, I think she's great. Like, even that song that came out, what was it, Panghat? Is that the song? I thought it looked so good. Like, just the setting of it, like that half churel, half dancing makeup that they do, and it really it's so cliche, but it did remind me of Sridevi and Hawa Hawaii, you know, certain moments. But I think, you know, Jhanvi really does. I feel she brings like classic Bollywood back to a certain degree, like as a heroine, and I kind of miss that. I think something works in her which I don't see in other actresses. But yeah, this whole ghost zombie chudel thing, it's like they might have just called it, you know, like Roohi or something like that, you know, the sequel to Stree. It's not a genre I necessarily like. Even Stree, I watched it like quite a bit later because I wasn't that interested in it. And I feel like also, is it Dinesh Vijayan?
Yeah.
This seems to be his thing. Like, he seems to be making a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think he also did Go Go Agon, right? If I'm not mistaken. And I don't know, it's not something that necessarily interests me. I don't know what kind of like cinematic point they're trying to make with it.
But it makes bank. That's the point.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, also like this churel with the ulte paon. We just saw this in Bulbul, you know, and Bulbul was so good. So, I mean,
yeah, the whole throwback to DDLJ with the Palat scene, I saw that like, you know, when you see the punchline from a mile, it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's a shame. I'm not like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just watch it with Jhanvi. Is this on Netflix or is this like a theatrical release?
It's going to be a theatrical release.
Yeah, I'm not going to the theatre for this, for sure.
Well, it's not open here anyway, so...
The other thing that I want to just mention before we move on to the next one is just that I don't see a lot of Bollywood actresses who are now able to do the comic dancing move, like, you know, like what we were saying, that, you know, it reminded you of Sridevi. And I think the reason why it reminds you of Sridevi is not because Jhanvi particularly looks like Sridevi, but because she's channeling that energy, which is very rare in Bollywood these days. And I really enjoyed that, and I think that's why I really like Panghat. And I really like the other song too, which I don't know if you've heard, but it's called Kishto, I think.
Yeah, I like that more than Panghat.
Yeah, it's a very sweet song.
I've not listened to it. I think you did send it, but I didn't get a chance to listen to it. But yeah, I think she's good in songs, and I think she does have that kind of like, she's having fun on screen, and there's comedy, and she looks like a star, man. Like more than anything, like she's a star. Like and like going back to Gangubai, like I'm glad, but I don't think she's ready to take on those roles yet, right? She's growing, she's getting better, but, you know, thank God Sanjay Leela Bhansali didn't cast Jhanvi Kapoor in that role, you know. Alia has a bit more experience and, you know, skills that Jhanvi is still developing, I think. But I hope she gets there, you know. Like I'm rooting for them. Like her and Sara Ali Khan are kind of like the two that I'm hoping we can see good things coming from. You know? I don't know what this is releasing though. When is Roohi releasing?
I can tell you.
11th of March in India. So yeah, we're definitely not getting this in the UK, right? Cinemas are not going to open, so that, which is going to be a weird one, right? Like for our podcast, even, like how are we going to talk about these movies when everybody's seen them and we don't have access to them in the UK?
I don't know.
Yeah, weird one. We'll have to see.
Back to the cam rip days.
Next one is one. There were so many trailers.
Mumbai Saga.
So many.
I want to talk about Mumbai Saga.
जिसने भी हफ्ता दिया अगला हाथ उसका कटेगा आज से हफ्ता बंद
Tell me, what do you want to say about this?
Like the opening frame happens and the green and yellow tinge on that on that trailer, and I'm like, oh wow, Sanjay Gupta is back.
Yeah.
Just like Sanjay Leela Bhansali, we have Sanjay F. Gupta on the other spectrum of the color palette.
Yeah, they both like choose a color and stick with it, right? Like that's how like 70% of their movies, like, let's just pick a color, guys.
Yeah. And we have a Twitter friend, Vikram Bondal, who tweeted something about Kshatriya yesterday with the tagline, a movie so macho, every time you watch it, you grow some chest hair. That's what Mumbai Saga sort of reminded me of. It features John's jawline, it features John's biceps, it features John's chest and everything else, you know. It's just, throwback to the forced days of John, I suppose. And I'm kind of glad that I'm watching this right now, and I'd like to watch this at the cinema if possible, but I don't know. I don't think we will be able to watch this at the cinema. When is this releasing? Mumbai Saga, 19th of March, so obviously not. But I'm happy. I'm happy to see like the talent involved. It's got Sunil Shetty and Amol Gupte and above all Imran Hashmi. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I mean, I genuinely got happy when I saw Sunil Shetty. Like I was like, wow, he's in there. He's got like, you know. So Amrita, did you grow chest hair watching the trailer?
I realized that I might, so I didn't.
But Sanjay Gupta is a weird director, right? Because I think it's weird because I always get excited for like a new Sanjay Gupta movie, but I end up not watching them or getting disappointed after I watch them.
Yeah.
Like he can sell a package, he can sell a concept, he can sell a trailer, but he can't make a movie. Like it's unfortunate. And I think he had like a little period after Kaante where things were going really well, like Kaante, Musafir. That was kind of his vibe, and I think he's still stuck in that zone. And I don't think he's been really successful at it.
So I opened his filmography page on Wikipedia, and it's got the year of release, the film, director, producer, writer, and then there is a note on each film, and everything on that list is inspired by, based on, inspired by, based on.
Yeah.
He was like the one of the foremost like DVD directors, right? Like he'd like literally just take a DVD and then like make it. Who was it? Like somebody, Raju Hirani.
Sajid.
Raju Hirani said.
Madhur Bhandarkar.
No. Raju Hirani said that one day he met he met Salman because Salman said he wanted to work with him. And Raju was like, okay, fine, like, where do you want to have a meeting? And it's like, come to my house. So he arrived at the house and Salman was watching a film and he was like, sit down and watch this film with me. And Raju Hirani's like, okay. So they sat there and they watched some random film. And then it was like a South Indian film apparently. And then at the end of it, Salman turned to him and was like, I'll give you this DVD and we'll make a film out of it, okay? Raju Hirani was like, I don't make films like that.
And you know that's such a genuine story, right? Like, there's no lies there. That has to have happened. But the thing is also, you know, we talk about like Salman not trying. He is trying to get Raju Hirani on board, but Raju Hirani doesn't want to play a game with him, right? So it's like he's trying, you know.
You know who reminds me of Sanjay Gupta? Sanjay Kapoor's character in Luck by Chance, you know. Hollywood may hit the film. You know?
I thought that was it. I thought that was a direct reference, no?
Yeah, could be.
Because like Kaante, like he hit kind of like a zone, right? And then Musafir was even like Shootout at Wadala was the first one where he started having like original scripts, probably like sequences copied and stuff like that. But I don't think of Shootout at Wadala as being like a straight off rip of one movie, right? Unless I'm mistaken.
No, on that note list, Shootout at Lokhandwala was the first one that came out in 2007. It does not have anything in the inspired by or based on. And then Shootout at Wadala is based on the book Dongri to Dubai.
Right. Oh, he actually didn't direct Shootout at Lokhandwala. He directed, somebody else did. He wrote
it. Wow, he writes.
He didn't know what to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I don't think, like, he's been able to... But he's been successful. Kabul was a success, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Jazba wasn't. Which I've not even watched Jazba. Has anybody watched it?
No, I haven't. I've watched 7 Days, the original, but I haven't watched
Is Jazba the one with
Aishwarya Rai and Irfan
Khan.
I feel like I have, but I can't remember what it was about.
Man, the trailer was so screechy. I just couldn't.
And that was also taken from something else.
Yeah, 7 Days. It's a Korean movie.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the whole idea of he started writing his own shit after Musafir doesn't even work.
No.
Okay, so weird one. I don't know, what else can you say about the gangster genre that hasn't been said, right? Like, there's been so many of these movies already.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's... yeah.
I'm just excited for John and Imran Hashmi to be back on screen.
Yeah.
And
he does, like, shoot... like macho action well, like Sanjay Gupta, right? Like there's something about like a very kind of masculine energy, like almost like Michael Bayish, you know. There's no even mention of women, right? Like who are even the women in this movie? Are there any?
I'm just checking the cast.
Kajal Agarwal. I don't remember seeing her in the teaser. Maybe I missed that. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll end up watching this, but I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. What else? One more came out. No, a few more came out.
I thought we were talking about what Amrita tweeted with the tagline, "Ye kya hai?" Time to dance.
Time to dance. Let's do Time to Dance first then.
For the Great Bradford Ballroom and Latin Championship.
ये तुम बालरूम मालरूम डांस के बारे में कुछ समझते भी हो, ये इसको अंग्रेजों का डांडिया समझे बैठे हो.
The reigning two-time champion.
It's produced by Remo D'Souza's wife, Lizelle D'Souza.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Join needs a minute.
I watched that trailer this morning. I lost it, man.
It was the last thing I watched before I went to bed, and I honestly had nightmares. And I think it was because of this trailer.
So this is like launching Katrina Kaif's sister, right?
Yes.
Or has she done other movies already?
I don't even... No, it's launching her, and it has Suraj Pancholi, who basically drove Jia Khan to suicide.
Who thought this was a good idea?
Salman
T-Series thought this was a good idea.
Because Salman is not necessarily... Why would Salman... like... Okay, he's like tangentially attached to both of these people. But I mean, like, you know, Katrina, he went out with her like a decade ago. Like, what does he owe Isabel Kaif now, right? Like, and Suraj Pancholi is like, at the moment, is just toxic to even attach your name to it. So what would Salman even get out of being involved with Time to Dance, right? Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. But it didn't, like, remember, like, I made that tweet on our last episode about Aishwarya, and I got the wrong image of Aishwarya.
Yeah.
We came to the understanding that it was basically a face mash of Kajal Agarwal's body with Aishwarya's face. And this, watching it, it felt like somebody had face mashed Katrina Kaif's face on somebody else's body, no?
She seems like a very nice, like, white lady, basically, Isabel Kaif. And also her name is clearly not Kaif. Like, she is no way even like Katrina, fine. Like, we can close our eyes and be like, theek hai, like, maybe her dad is
मान लिया, चलो इतने साल से कह रही हो मान लिया अब, you know.
But Isabel, like, there's just no way that she's even got like a drop of Desi blood anywhere near her. Like, she's very clearly some nice white lady.
Yeah. And I also think that they surround her with so many other bad white actors that she kind of looks better. And the other thing which is also very disconcerting in the trailer is that she has the same voice that Katrina had when she started her career.
It's Mona Shetty again.
Yeah, it's the same dubbing artist. So it's like, wow, what's the... It's
no, seriously, that trailer, like, increasingly gets worse. You know, who is good in this movie at all?
Somebody was like, they lost it when the Lagan lady's voice showed up.
Lagan lady.
And now every time I see, like, even I don't see it again, but like every time I think of it, I just think like, you know, kitna lagan dega, dugna lagan dega. That's all I can hear.
Because I thought one of the actresses was the Kajal's neighbor in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham.
Mrs. Sprightly.
Yeah, I thought she was... I'm looking at Isabel Kaif's filmography, and she actually had a launch in 2014 with Dr. Cabby.
What is that?
It's like a taxi kind of thing. Like Vinay Virmani and Kunal Nair. Kunal Nair from what's that show called?
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So yeah, she had already like a launch, like a Hollywood kind of thing. Like Jean-François Pouillot is the director.
How old is she?
Let's not get into how old the Kaifs are, because we're never gonna get we're gonna have to get passports out and things like that. Like nobody can ever answer that question.
She seems like she's about 30, but I swear to God, like, you know, like Katrina's been talking about a 16-year-old sister for like 10 years now. So I'm like, how old is she?
Yeah. Stepfather. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, also, Suraj Pancholi, man, like, he's still going at it, man. He's still going at it. Like, and actually, I didn't talk about this. I did watch Death to Bollywood. Did you guys
Death in Bollywood?
Death in Bollywood. Did you guys watch that documentary?
We don't.
I haven't.
No, we don't get BBC, no?
Right. I'm sure it's available on... It's an interesting documentary, like, as a... Like, I don't like true crime or whatever you want to call it, like... but it is, like... I don't know, I think for, like, Suraj Pancholi, it was actually, like, a good move to take part in it. Because I do think if you watch that, there is a bit of a rehabilitation that, like... I mean... A little bit, like, if you watched it, you know, like, I don't know, it's a weird one. Because, you know, with BBC, they always try to do that balancing thing, like both sides of the story. And because everything has been so negative about Suraj Pancholi, that even that slight bit of balance that BBC adds kind of helps him a little bit, you know. It's a weird one. I don't think this guy can have a career anymore, though. But he's still trying, though. He's made like quite a few movies, right? Like,
it's also really weird that, you know, like, both his parents are pretty good-looking people, and then he looks like a gremlin. Like, I don't get it.
I don't know. Like, he's got...
But what's stopping him to step away from the screen? And because he's got connections, he can be a film technician behind the camera, right? He can make that a career, but... He's been an AD on Ek Tha Tiger and Guzarish, but I don't know. What's he trying to prove?
No, he's actually only done 2 movies. I thought he'd done more, but he's done like a Satellite Singh, and then like he's doing Hawa Singh, and now he's doing this one. So yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't think this is going to work out for him, unfortunately. No. What shall we do now? Are we doing the Jagame thing?
No.
I don't know what is that to talk about. It looks awesome though, and I'm happy that it's on Netflix. But
the Dhanush movie.
Yeah,
the trailer was mad, man. It was amazing. It was
probably the best trailer we saw.
Yeah. It was cut to the rhythm. Dhanush is having fun. There's guns flying. It's amazing. I will be watching. That's all that I have to say.
I was actually thinking about that, like the way that Tamil cinema especially does masala these days, it is like head and shoulders better than anything that Hindi's been putting out, because Hindi just feels like it's either done or else it's trying to be ironic or else it's trying to be like cartoonish. Whereas like with Tamil, like they're trying to be stylish with it and they're having fun. There's like so much energy in like these movies, and especially in their songs, without them being like in the Hindi versions, it's always like some item number where the girl is like half naked and it's all about like, I want to eat you like your chicken fry and like that's the song, what it is. Whereas in Tamil, like they're having fun and the songs are like super fun, and people like Dhanush are clearly having a ball filming it. And it just feels very different and it makes you want to watch. In a way that, I don't feel about like Rohit Shetty shitty movies.
Yeah. But I also feel like, because I just watched Master 2 weeks ago, right? Like, I was so much more excited about this, and I feel it's kind of in that same zone. I might be mistaken, I don't know shit, but I was really excited to see Dhanush do what I couldn't, like Joseph Vijay couldn't convey to me. Like I couldn't feel anything. Here I could feel it immediately.
Yeah.
Whatever, and I just thought this, like, for me, Dhanush is so much better. Like, I would watch any Dhanush movie. Also because, like, Rowdy Baby has been on repeat at home. Like, every 3 minutes we're watching Rowdy Baby at the moment. But yeah, he's so good. Like, he's so good. And I'm really excited for this one.
So, yeah, like, I feel the same way about Dhanush. But also, like, I've also been on a Rowdy Baby kick over the past week. And, like, I know everyone's doing that song from Master on TikTok and Reels and whatever. But I keep thinking, Rowdy Baby was probably one of my favorite songs over the past couple of years. And it's because the two of them with like Prabhudeva's choreography, and they're having so much fun. And they're,
Is that Prabhudeva's choreography?
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. I hadn't even put those two things together.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because it's amazing, the choreography. Like I just came in blank to that song. I don't even know Sai Pallavi.
Yeah,
is that how you pronounce
Sai Pallavi.
She's amazing, by the way. Like she is so good, and the dancing. And I mean, my daughter loves the song. She's like doing the dances, but then it's a Prabhudeva choreography, so it's impossible to copy. So poor girl. She's trying though. But yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful song, and now it makes so much sense. Like everything makes sense now that you mentioned. Yeah, Prabhudeva was involved.
But see, that's another thing, right? Like this is the kind of Masi song that you'd be okay as a dad watching your kid do, as compared to like some of the other, like the kind of things that we are seeing in Hindi these days, which is all like an item song. So
Suraya, for an example, like my daughter loves Katrina Kaif. She is not interested in watching Suraya whatsoever because it's so sexualized, right? And even she, as a 8-year-old, feels weird about it. Like she asked me, why can we see her tummy so much? It's like, yeah. So yeah, she doesn't want to watch it. She wants to watch Nachne De Sare instead, So there is a gaze to those, songs that even like an 8-year-old girl can pick up, right?
Yeah.
So, and both are directed by choreographed by Prabhudeva, and there's a vast difference between both of them. So yeah, I'm loving Rowdy Baby. Shall we get into some main reviews?
Yeah.
മോസ്റ്റ്ലി നാനു വിളിച്ചിരുന്നു. ഇന്ന് വൈകുന്നേരം അവള് വരുന്നു. ഇന്ന് വ്യാഴമല്ലേ? നാളെ അവൾക്ക് ക്ലാസ് ഇല്ലേ? ഇല്ല, നാളെ എന്തോ ധ്യാനമാണ്.
നീ എന്നെ പറ്റി എന്താ വിചാരിച്ചത്? ഞാനിപ്പോ ഒരു തിയേറ്റർ ഉടമയും പ്രൊഡ്യൂസറൊക്കെ അല്ലേ.
തിയേറ്ററിന്റെ കാര്യമൊന്നും പറയണ്ട. അതിന്റെ പുറത്ത് കുറെ ലോൺ എടുത്ത് വെച്ചിട്ടില്ലേ?
രാവിലെ തുടങ്ങി.
ഇത് നമ്മുടെ ജോർജ് കുട്ടിയുടെ വീടിന്റെ പുറകിലാ സാർ. ഏത് ജോർജ് കുട്ടി?
ആ വരുൺ കേസിൽ.
അത് തന്നെ സാർ.
Amrita, did you watch anything?
Yeah, I watched Master finally. I watched Sir finally, and I watched Drishyam 2. Those are the 3 things I watched.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Drishyam 2. Because I think we all watched it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. This rarely happens that we all watch a recent movie. I think this is a fun one. So yeah, Drishyam 2 came out. I've only seen the original Hindi version. I've not seen the original version. It's the original version is the Mohanlal version, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys watch the original version?
I haven't. I only watched the Kamal Hassan one, which was Papanasam, I think, and then I watched the Ajay Devgan one, and I've watched the Mohanlal sequel.
Right. So this comes quite a few years after it, right? So Amrita, how big was the phenomenon of this movie when it originally came out, the first Drishyam?
Oh, huge! But back then people weren't watching Malayalam films the way they're watching today, right? So it was just the early adopters who were talking about it at the time. But all the Malayalis and Tamilians who had watched it, and probably even the Telugu people who had watched it, were really into it.
Because this movie has been remade in 6 different versions. I think Film Companion South did a video essay where they compare the final sequence in all 6 versions. And
7.
if a movie...
Wow.
7, okay.
I mean, the Korean version is being made right now. And then there's a Chinese version as well. I didn't know about that.
Right.
Wait, there's a Korean version of Drishyam being made?
Yeah.
Or The Devotion of Suspect X? Which one... those are 2 different things, no?
What?
No, are they remaking The Devotion of Suspect X or Drishyam?
So on the Drishyam wiki page, it says, as of 2021, an untitled Korean remake of the film is in its initial stages of development.
Can I just say that's really awesome, but also is really funny because Hindi cinema is making Korean films, and Korean films are making Malayalam films. That's just funny.
Yeah. What was the other one that you mentioned?
So Drishyam is sort of loosely based on The Devotion of Suspect X, which is a Japanese novel that in turn was sort of inspired by an Agatha Christie novel as well. So it's a very Inception style plot twice remaking.
There are no original stories.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what did you think of the second part, Amrita, of the sequel?
Okay, so we actually had a Clubhouse thing on Drishyam yesterday.
Amrita says, flipping her hair. Ab main Clubhouse mein hu. You peasants.
I mean, you two are there as well, except I am clearly the major adopter around here. But I went into it liking the film a lot more than when I left it. Everyone was just ye kyun hai, ye kya hai? And then I was just you are all right. So I liked it. I liked the fact that it really concentrated on the psychological effect of having committed a murder, even if you've gotten away with it.
Yeah.
So I really like that part of it. The climax of it, the explanation of what happened, that is not something that I would have expected at all. I did not see that coming whatsoever. And also but on the downside, I feel this movie is basically setting up the legend of George Kutty, who's this mastermind. And he's got almost supernatural powers of evading the law. And that was a little bit I don't really care for it. Somebody in the room said that, the first movie was about this ordinary man who was doing extraordinary things to protect his little family. But the sequel is, sort of setting up this sort of Superman persona for George Kutty, which makes him, it takes away from the ordinary aspect of his character. And also, I had like a real problem with like the way Mohanlal looked, the toupee and the dye that he was using on his beard. Like, it was just really distracting to me. I don't know why he can't just age gracefully, but that was a real problem for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Amrita, are you saying that you liked the movie, then you went to Clubhouse, and then you liked it less?
Yes.
Is that what you? Yeah.
That's what happened.
See, this is why I don't talk to people.
Yeah.
I avoid talking to people. This is the reason. Sujoy, what do you think?
I think I don't get the superhero aspect of George Kutty. I think because I didn't watch the original one. Obviously, I don't know, but I could see, like, because my reference is Kamal Hassan and Ajay Devgan from the first movie, I think this was a more restrained version of that character. I could see the burden that was on him. The relationship that propelled him to make these steps to protect his family. He does not really share a good relationship anymore. He's drinking and the love between him and his wife is strained because he is the only keeper of that secret and he has to live with it. The wife doesn't trust him completely either now. And then she goes into blaming herself for, all the events that happens and all of that. He's reliving everything. He has to continue living, one step ahead of the law just to survive. And I was fascinated by it. It is obviously not as cinematic as one would expect or one would, like it to be. It's more of a writer's story, and the pace at which it reveals the many layers in Drishyam 2 is quite interesting. It is not a weekday night movie. I fell asleep trying to watch it 3 times before I finally was like, no, I have to sit through this. And I did it on a Saturday afternoon. And it was, I'm really, really happy that I did. Because the payoff in like the final 90 minutes or so, when it like kicks in, it was amazing. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, because it's obviously, I don't know if Amrita, if it's true, but I think Malayalam as a language is really spoken very fast, and I was like finding it hard to keep up with the subtitles as well.
Yeah.
So I was totally on the edge of my seat for this, and I'm really, really happy with the payoff. It didn't feel too contrived, or I didn't feel manipulated by it. I really enjoyed it.
I was reading this oral history of Lost on vulture.com. I don't know if you guys have come across that one, but it kind of reminded me of the Drishyam 2, because Damon Lindelof, and I mean, this is kind of a classic thing, right? Like, people, like, we were obsessed with Lost, like the questions that it kind of like put up, the reveals and the twists that were coming up.
This is where I'll flex that I haven't watched a single episode of Lost, but I know how it ends.
Yeah, dude, but I do. I mean, I'm positive on Lost. I like the experience going through it and at that era, and I think it's still a good show. But he was mentioning that people want answers, but when you get the answer, you're unsatisfied with the answer. It's very hard to stick the landing.
It's the same with Bahubali, right? The hype for Katappa ne kyun mara compared to the answer that we get, it was like, oh yeah, that was pretty expected. And so, just to answer to that question. And
also, we're watching WandaVision at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably going to do a podcast about that later on. But we're like 8-9 episodes in, and the big reveal is that she's actually Scarlet Witch. And you're like, I knew this. Like, this is the name of the character. It's always been the name of the character, right? So it's kind of about the journey. And also, we as audiences, we want to figure it out. We want to figure out what the moves are and things like that. And a lot of times when our intelligence gets questioned or we're not right, we feel cheated in a way, right? But I think so it's hard to deliver this kind of thriller. And for me, I was taken aback. Like, I did not see the twist coming at all, which rarely happens.
Yeah.
Like, something happens just before intermission, and I was like, what the hell? I did not see that coming. And so that was already, it puts you on a back foot as an audience. And then I do feel there is something right about those 20 minutes being very hastily resolved. But I was stressed out. I was stressed out for George Kutty the moment, the CCTV and they start digging up the things and things like that in the police station. I was really stressed out because I was like, I thought they had caught him,
But also at that point, right, I had paused for a pee break and I saw there's still 40 minutes to go. So I was hopeful of something more.
Yeah. And I do think there's this idea of, George Kutty being amazing, but is that not like, is the movie not talking maybe about Mohanlal being amazing more than, like there's always this back and forth between the star and the actor that,
there are meta throwaway lines like how he's going to rule Malayalam cinema. It's an actual line in the movie, and that's a sort of a nod to the star that is Mohanlal rather than George Kutty himself. Sorry. What were you saying?
But I also still really, really like the relationship that he has with his daughters. It really works, and I didn't see it in the original, but I assume it's there too. But just that whole thing of that younger daughter pushing back against the conservative mom and, asking for that sleepover party and all that kind of thing. As the dad, that was quite endearing, and like also just the fact that, he's like just doing everything to protect his wife and his daughter from everything and just taking all the burden on himself. That was really like sweetly done. And also just this aspect of like film production, like he really wants to do like a film, produce a film, and he's not like Karan Johar, right? Like when you're watching Bollywood movies, we think you have to have a walk-in closet and things like that. But when you're watching a Malayalam movie, it's just like a homegrownish kind of cinema, right? And that kind of felt kind of cool about it, like. But no, I liked it. There were no songs though, right? Like, is that normal, Sujay? Like, did I miss the songs, or are there no songs? What happened?
I don't remember any songs.
Yeah, there were, like, I don't know if there were any in the original one either or not. Yeah. Do you think Ajay Devgan is remaking this?
Well, he would be, but Nishikant Kamath, who made the Drishyam remake in Hindi, he is no more. So I'm not sure who will be the director for the Ajay Devgan one. But I think Ajay Devgan would not let this opportunity go. But at the same time, the pitch of Ajay Devgan's Drishyam is very much like he's the hero he can outsmart rather than he's the calm and composed one who is going through the burden of protecting the family and the sort of the price that he has to pay for survival, The moral struggle in this is really, really interesting to watch play, because he's the calm and composed one. He's putting on a facade in front of everybody else, but internally he's living through it. And I could feel that with the George Kutty in this. And to answer, Amrita's comment about whether we are going to see the legend of George Kutty play out in a third movie, and if this is a setup, I hope not. This beautifully sort of covers that entire story of how it began and how it ended, rather than it being extended to a third outing of George Kutty.
Amrita was asking, is there were no songs in this movie, right? Is that normal? Like,
it can be. I mean, because this is like Malayalam cinema it takes a few risks that like other industries don't necessarily feel comfortable taking, I feel.
Yeah. And I was also just mentioning, like, I like the aspect how homegrown it seems to be. Like he doesn't seem like a Karan Johar kind of person producing a movie. He just seems like a family man, and I'm going to produce a movie. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Which is actually why, like yesterday, Aditya, remember Aditya from Sri Krishna from the Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na episode for long-time listeners. But he was doing, he said something made him look up the number of movies that Mammootty and Mohanlal have done since the first Drishyam came out. And they've each done something between 40 and 50 movies in the intervening years. Which is because a lot of the Malayalam films that are done are basically tiny budget, very quick, shot within the space of a month kind of a thing. Which is something that Dulquer Salman always talks about as well. He feels lazy because he only works in 3 movies or something per year. Which just makes his peers in other industries go what? You make how many movies a year? And meanwhile, his dad at home is constantly on some set or the other because he's making 10 or 15 movies a year.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll make a remake of this though with Ajay Devgan because I feel what you're talking about accessibility, right? I think the Drishyam first one, a lot of people might not have watched it, but now being on Prime, I don't think if, and I really like that they end up straight away on Prime and we can watch them and we were talking about that with the Dhanush movie that even my wife was asking me, you've been watching a lot of South Indian movies lately, right? And I'm like, yeah, they're releasing. I have access to them. Yeah. It's so cool. And I've watched a lot of them and most of them have been a really positive experience. And even Drishyam 2, I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy it came out.
Ajay
so I don't know if...
got the rights though for Drishyam 2.
Oh, he does?
Yeah,
okay.
So he definitely wants to do it.
Okay. Honestly, it's probably the last Ajay Devgan role that I really liked, actually. I thought he did a good job. And also Tabo was in there, so that was amazing. So bring Tabo back, all for that. What else did we watch? Did you want to talk a little bit about Master now that you've watched it? Or?
Yeah, I watched it and I understand why Sujoy was so disappointed in it. But also I feel I didn't mind it. I enjoyed certain aspects of it, the way that Vijay reacted in certain scenes, especially when there's something terrible that happens and this woman shows up, he's met her maybe twice. And she shows up and she says that, you are a drunk, you don't care for anybody, you are selfish. And then it's revealed that she's the one that put him in this particular situation because she thought that he would do something good for the people concerned. And he's just but lady, you gotta tell me. You can't just make all these plans on my behalf and not tell me. How am I supposed to know? And I felt that was a real moment, so there were moments throughout this film where I could see the intention of the film, but I think the execution fell far short. And also somebody again on Clubhouse was talking about how Vijay Sethupathiy's character was didn't have a payoff. And I was thinking that if this was a Telugu film, then Vijay Sethupathiy's character because the movie starts with what happens to his character as a child. And that is basically the origin story of almost every Telugu action hero. So I had certain expectations of that character based upon that setup. And then it didn't really pay off at the end. And I was like, well, this is disappointing. So, yeah.
But did you guys talk about the climax scene where out of the blue, Vijay Joseph just brings his colleague in the Jeep and she starts shooting arrows like Hawkeye?
What was that about? Nobody could figure it out. It was what? But yeah, it was just.
It's funny when.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying it's funny when filmmakers have a fancy for something and then they just incorporate it in the movie.
It's like the whole Kevin Smith Wild Wild West story, right? With the giant spiders.
Yeah. With the giant spider, yeah, exactly. It's a weird one, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think I also listened into a Clubhouse about Master, and I was surprised how much people loved it and saw meaning and layers in it, which I honestly I saw nothing of it. I was sorely even the further I've gone away from the movie, the more I am disappointed with it. So I really didn't enjoy it. I would not recommend it to anybody. And honestly, I think I'm not ever watching a Joseph Vijay movie again. I think that's how far it's gotten.
But I have to say, going back to what Aditya sent in about Vijay in our last episode, I kind of see the Salman parallels, I have to say, now that I've watched Master.
I shall remain
Asim is Katti. The other film that I watched was Sir, because both Beth and Sujoy loved it. And Asim, have you watched it?
No, I've been always go to Sir and Tribanga, and I end up watching neither of them. I let's just say go watch something else. Okay. Justified season 4 or whatever.
Don't watch Tribanga. Watch Sir though. I think you and Isa would really like it. Okay. It's so it's so nice sometimes to just watch something that has a pace of its own, and it's for a long time I haven't watched a movie that does so much with storytelling through visuals rather than through dialogue, and putting the main character in certain situations. There's a scene where she's coming from the movie starts with her coming from the village to Bombay, and it's a trip that she's made a bunch of different times. And I've been to Bombay a bunch of times, but I have never really driven out of Bombay like that. And it was really crazy to see the village turn into, and she needs to take, she gets on a motorcycle, then she takes a auto, then she gets on a bus, then she's on all these different modes of transportation. And it starts off in this little hut, and then it ends up in this Bombay high-rise, this very expensive, very tony, tastefully appointed Bombay high-rise. And you can see the journey through India in that one sequence, and you see the difference in the class and station of these two characters. And everything is told, without a single word being spoken. And it is fabulous. And I immediately fell in love. That first sequence immediately caught me, and I immediately fell in love. And then as the movie goes through, you get all these various conversations and flashbacks come along, and you see so much more meaning in that beginning sequence. It's as if they're just peeling back layers, and they're telling you, she was putting on bangles on the bus. What does that mean? And why is she putting on bangles on the bus? And,
it's such there is not even a focus moment. It just happens in the background, and it just means so much that she can't when she goes back to the village, she takes off that bangles.
Yeah.
It's,
and
so good.
And it also, in that sequence, the whole bangle, the story behind why she has those bangles, who gave them to her, and why it matters to her. All of that is also part of the greater story, and it tells you so much more about the characters. I really love this film. I would recommend it to everybody.
I think my wife actually did watch it and really loved it. So yeah, I think you're right on the money there. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance yet, and I've heard so many positive things about it. I really want to get to it. I'll try to watch, sir. It's sounding good. Yeah. I think you already gave your thoughts, right, Sujoy, on the previous episode, if I'm not mistaken.
I have.
Let's move on. Sujoy, what else did you watch?
I watched something that nobody else should watch. The Girl on the Train with Parineeti Chopra.
मैं रोज इसी रास्ते से जाती हूँ और उससे मुलाकात होती है. उसे देखकर मुझे मेरा बीता हुआ कल याद आता है.
हम एक फैमिली शुरू करने जा रहे हैं. तुम, मैं, हमारा बच्चा.
She's everything I lost. समझ नहीं आता ये जेलसी है या फिर मेरी चाह?
Hey!
मैं हूँ मीरा कपूर और ये है मेरी कहानी.
I also watched that one, yeah.
Yeah, and I had existential crisis watching this movie.
Okay, first, Amrita, we've both watched it. You've not watched this movie. Do you have any questions for us?
Not really, because I've watched the Emily Blunt original of it.
Yeah,
and
me
I've
too.
read the novel, so I know what the story is. And this is basically, my favorite part about this whole thing is that Parineeti Chopra sent a tweet to Emily Blunt thanking her for originating the role. And I laughed so much. I was like, okay.
So painful. I was hiding my eyes. I couldn't even read that tweet.
It's like second-hand embarrassment hota hai.
Yeah.
Oh, it was funny as hell. But I've been reading all the reviews and people. It was really funny though. Like Rahul from Film Companion did a pan, obviously. Like all the critics panned it, right? And Rahul from Real Companion panned it, and like it really pissed off a bunch of our friends, all of whom were like, "Ye kyun likhta hai?" Like he just hates movies. Ye kyun dekhta hai? And that was funny. But then also Uday Bhatia, who has been on this podcast, also did a review, and it was just genius. Like I laughed all throughout. Like he had all these quotes from the film, like the dialogues.
Yeah, the dialogue for this film is just to die for, man. It's like one for the ages. Like.
So I have got my Paisa Vasool entertainment from like reading all the reviews and seeing all the haterade. Baki, you do watch it, please. Thank you.
Sujoy, what did you think of The Girl on a Train?
Greenwich Forest kahan hai? That's what I thought of this movie.
The thing is, like, if you invent a location and take cinematic liberty, which is fine, that's not my problem. But why make it pivotal to the movie and then mention it 70,000 times in the movie when it doesn't exist? It is so annoying. But it's also just that the whole aspect of this movie that, why is it even set in London? Like,
there is no reason.
Did that ever make sense to you?
No.
Like, all the Desis act like Desis. Nobody actually feels like they...
Forget about that. She goes to an AA meeting and she starts speaking in Hindi.
Yeah. And she's like a lawyer. Like, she's a lawyer and she's like, like clearly from India. She's not like... Like, nobody has a British Asian accent. Nobody acts like a British Asian. Even like there's a lot of cops stuff happening. And even the cops don't act like British cops. They act like American cops. Like the geography, because it's important. It's a girl on the train. Like she's commuting from one place to the other place. And she's seeing this house. And none of that feels how London or the UK is set up. It just makes no sense. Like, why just not set it in the US, right? Like the story was made for there. The commute, the houses. Like, we don't have these kind of houses. We don't have this kind of commute here. The trains don't go this slow. That kind of thing. The movie it's so weird. Like there was a sequence where it just kind of stood out to me. Like you're seeing the marital home of Parineeti Chopra and her husband, and she has like post-its on the fridge, like little, and one says purchase groceries. Like nobody writes purchase groceries. You say buy milk, like nobody's, and that's like always the artificiality of it always just kind of like jumps at me in this movie. Like even the head wound she has looks like a slice of salami laga diya sir, like prosciutto or something like that.
Itna paisa mein itna hi milenga.
Yeah. But what did you think? Sujay?
I mean, I'm really sad for Parineeti Chopra. She's had such a terrible career, so manufactured by Yash Raj for the first beginning years. And she had, some promise with Ladies vs. Ricky Bell and Ishak Zadeh. And this is the stuff that she gets to do now. I'm really sad because even she has some promise of on-screen presence in some scenes, but she doesn't really know where her groove is. It just feels, she is putting on a performance and she does not know where it's going, and she's just, in this zone where she's playing this drunk lady, and also like her amnesia, it just comes and goes whenever it's convenient. It's so inconsistent, just like her performance in this movie. I felt really sad that Aditi Roy Hydari is reduced to this, on-screen sufferer all the time, and everybody else is just pretty much non-existent. Even a performance like from Kirti Kulhari, who I loved in Pink, her performance is so bad in this movie. It's just terribly written. The dialogues are terrible. The songs are misplaced. This was a total flop for me.
I don't know if the movie is cheaply made or badly made. Like, I couldn't decide.
I don't think it can be cheaply made by the scenes that I see. It's just badly made.
Because there's a moment where she's smashing a car, and then the blue screen of London is so bad. Like, it's so badly done. Like, you clearly see they put Westminster Abbey behind it or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is even happening at this point, right? Like, and it's weird because I think with Parineeti, I think we all want her to do well, right? Like, I don't think anybody hates Parineeti Chopra. I think we all want her to do well. And okay, we can say she had the Yash Raj thing, but those were her best movies, right? Like, and then she herself got into this body shaming weird rut that she got into, and then she's been just making one choice after the other choice that has been really, really bad. So I don't think we can blame anybody for her except her, I guess. I just don't think she understands herself or what she's good at.
And she's next on with Sandeep or Pinky Farrar, which is the Dibakar Banerjee movie, right?
Which might be good, no?
Yeah, I hope it's good. Right?
Yeah.
And I hope it does good for Arjun Kapoor as well, because they are back after a long time, and I think like their on-screen chemistry works for me.
Yeah. Because she did Meri Pyari Bindu, which was okay. A lot of people really love that movie. But then she's been in Golmaal again, Namaste England, Kesari, Jabariya Jodi, and The Girl on a Train, and now the next one is Sandeep or Pinky Farrar, which, although I'm excited, but it does feel like that, Ishaq Zadeh, and the movie you just mentioned, what was that one that you just mentioned? Crap, now I'm blanking on it.
No, I did mention Ishaq Zadeh.
Jabariya Jodi, that's the one I wanted. Like, that kind of that kind of setup, it feels like it's the same one. I don't know, I just feel she's lost in a way. Like, she doesn't just know what she's good at, and it's sad to see that. By the way, there's a random dude in a field in a horse, and she keeps going back to him and screaming at him. Did you see that part?
And she discovers that he's got the same phone cover.
I want, we'll link down to Uday Bhatia's review in the show notes, because everyone needs to read it, because that's one of the things that he points out, and it just made me crack up when I read it.
Yeah. वो मेरा wound था.
वो मेरा wound था. Insane that she can pull, try to convincingly say those lines and think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And also, she just doesn't look like, even if she's being drunk and trash, she never really looks bad. Like, she looks pretty good. I feel like Emily Blunt looked terrible. In that scene, she looked like a drunk. I think the Kajal looks actually quite good on Parineeti Chopra. I don't understand where this downfall seems to be. And I also just even didn't like the actor Avinash Tiwari. Avinash Tiwari, which until now I've only seen good things of, right? So even this movie is so bad that it even brings him down. I don't know. Yeah, it's really it's a washout of all senses. It's really, really bad. It's so bad.
And it also sort of goes its own way with the climax, and We just can't be, satisfied with the twists that were in the original material. We'll put our own twists into it,
Yeah. I mean, I understand that they want to change it a little bit, and it didn't feel odd to me, the twist. It does feel a bit Bollywood, I guess. Yeah. But you see it coming, right? Like, you see it coming along. Like, at least I did, like, especially when I just watched Drishyam, Mm-hmm. And again, weirdly, also WandaVision. That's also like a girl dealing with, the trauma of what happened and like amnesia and things like that. But yeah, it's, poor Parineeti, man. Really feel bad for her. Sujoy, did you want to do something else?
I mean, I watched E Wale Oo. It was great, but I don't know if I would like to recommend this movie. It's a very, very important movie in ways that how it explores like what we think of migrant families and migrant workers in New Delhi, and it speaks a lot of things, very complex and very heavy. I don't know if we are in the right mental state to handle all of those, and that's my privilege speaking. But for people who are interested to check it out, it is streaming on Netflix.
The title does remind me of like a sabziwala in Karachi, Aloo lelo.
Yeah, it is kind of that, or what you call onomatopoeic sound that like people who are trained, people who are hired to drive away monkeys from public buildings in Delhi make. Yeah.
Cool. Let's wrap it up. Unless we have anything else, I think we're good, no?
Yep.
Yeah. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ. I also am appearing on the Fuckboys of Literature podcast this week, I think. So check that out. I'll be discussing Arkanara and it's the guide. And also you can find me on BookTube, where I talk about books at Amrita by the Book.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at 93K, and follow the Khandaan podcast on Instagram at Khandaan Podcast.
I'm at, you can drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. Again, we've got a lot of new listeners because of, really good episode we had with the Hum Dil De Chuke.
Yeah, we had so much feedback on the Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam, so shout out to Sal for joining us.
Yeah, there was even some controversy apparently that I wasn't part of, but it was nice to see so many people discuss, the show we've dropped. It felt really cool. So for any new listeners, and if you want to give us your thoughts, drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. You can follow us at youpodcast, and we'll be back. Next episode will be with Haroon Rashid, and we'll be talking about Har Dil
Do Pyar Karega.
Yeah, that's the one. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers.
Khandaan Podcast और एक्टिंग